All right, Andy Jagoda from New York, and thanks for having me. And so I was asked, in this group of 6 speakers, 3 were asked to talk about something in teaching and in academics, and 3 were asked to talk about operations. And so perhaps Corey is right. I have nothing really that I could do on teaching. And so interestingly, even though I've made my whole career in teaching and building programs, educational programs, I was asked to share a lesson in operations. So it's Master Secrets Forum, the most important thing. And when they asked me, I said, is it thing or things? Because how can you say that they're one thing? I found that a tremendous challenge, and it's been a very interesting process as all of us, when we're asked to do something, we go through trying to identify what our priority is and what's the message we want to make. And so we'll see at the end of my 5 slides if I'm able to share with you my one thing. Anyway, my career in operations, and I'll say it again, I had no interest, and I still have no great love for operations, and yet somehow operations has become a very good part of my life, which I've tried to outline for you here. This is my journey in my career, and in fact, I just realized this is my 40th year since in medicine. I entered medical school in 1978, and it's my 30th year, or close to it, practicing emergency medicine. And I agree that we have wonderful colleagues, and nothing gives me more pleasure to see how our specialty has grown and how we've become what I think one of the leading forces in the delivery of health care anywhere, but definitely in the States. So I kind of went through, and I've been at Mount Sinai in New York City since 1995. So the good part of my career has been in New York. But this is how it all starts. You know, I go down to the University of Florida. The very first speaker on Grand Rounds Day was Corey Slovis. That was amazing. That tells you how old he is and how young I am. That was amazing. And I'm thinking, University of Florida, what an amazing place. Look at the quality of Grand Round speakers they get. Little did I know that was the only Grand Round speaker for the year. But they chose a great one. And still giving the same talk, which is still pretty good. And so that's one of the things of being in this specialty for a long time. But I start making my way around, and I get involved in international studies, and I develop an international studies program at Mount Sinai. And then I'm an APD, and that's great, and I'm very happy, and I'm not looking for more in life. But then Lynn Richardson, so this isn't my lesson. I only get one lesson. But partner with the right people, and your success is guaranteed. I've had great partners, and Lynn Richardson is my counterpart, and for 23 years, I think we've been able to do magic. Anyway, she goes ahead and gets an R01, and that kicked her out of the residency and into better things, and I become the program director. And I think I'm happy, but I guess I wasn't, because the next opportunity comes, and now I'm taking that switch from academics and education into the world of operations. And I become the medical director of a fairly large emergency department, 100,000 visits. And I'm moving along, and I become chair. Okay, that's great, except how did I prepare to be chair, which is what I'm going to get to. And then I become system chair, because we buy a system, my institution. And then I step down, and now I've stepped back up to being an interim chair, which is a whole nother story. But this is the story I want to tell you that's going to take you to my one lesson I want to convey. So Mount Sinai, 1994, New York City, even though the rest of America had moved on in emergency medicine, New York City was just really discovering emergency medicine. We become the first academic program in Manhattan. Great. And from 1994 to 2004, we invest all of our energy, Lynn Richardson, me, and the other young faculty, in building an academic program that teaches emergency medicine and begins the Mickey Mouse research that evolves into real research, so a real research division. And then out of the blue, 2004, the hospital president, who's a vascular surgeon, calls us into his office and makes an announcement. 2004, and we're in an academic department in the medical school, and he says, academic emergency medicine is not viable. We're going to outsource services. Jiminy Cricket, this was unbelievable to me that this could happen in America, that they're telling me emergency medicine doesn't count. The good news of part one of my story is the hospital president loses his job and he goes to LSU, and I don't know what they did with him. All I cared about that he's out of New York City. So that was great, and we made a cogent argument of why academic emergency medicine needs to exist, but my lesson is starting to coalesce in my mind. So what happens? 2004, we're working really hard, and I have to tell you, we've been a good success story, and I'm bragging because I'm proud of what we've been able to do. We become the #1 medical student. That's what we're good at, right? We're great bedside teachers, and we capitalized on that as we built our clinician educators. We become the #2 NIH-funded emergency department in America. We get the highest score on our K-12 application. We become the first T32 training program. What am I doing here? I am doing everything that academic emergency physicians should do. I am building a true academic program. But the question is, what does the dean want from me? In 2012, we had 100 publications in my department. We're just writing away. We're just doing things right. And then what happens? 2012, my hospital, Mount Sinai, buys a system, and we acquire them. So we're now into the world of acquisitions. We are all in the world of acquisitions. Don Yealy comes as my consultant to try and help me understand what is building a system going to be all about. And the hospital makes a very interesting decision. And so how many of you want to be a chair one day? It's a hard one. I know you don't want to, but at least one person's brave enough to say yes. Probably half of you would like to raise your hand. It's good to be chair, but it's not for the weak. And so, of course, it's all in the preparation. So 2012, we've done all this great stuff, and they make a decision. They're going to split leadership. And this is a model that's evolving out there in the country. We're going to have the academic chair, and we're going to have an operations leader. What are they telling the chair? Well, maybe you're not good enough to deliver operationally what the dean and the hospital president wants of you. So the sub-question of my 2 minutes that are left is, what defines success as an academic chair in America in 2018? And I can tell you right now there's 12 open chair positions in the country. 12, that's a lot. So they make this decision to split, and it casts me into this strange schizo world where I'm academic chair, but I don't control the operations, and if I don't control the operations, I don't control the budget, and if I don't control the budget, I don't control much. I'm very glad to tell you, in 2017, this split model fails, and they admit it's a failure, and we rejoin operations and academics into a single chair. I love that. And that's great, and that tells you how good we are as a specialty and how resilient we can be. Which brings me now to my last slide, I think. So the secret. I was asked one secret. In 2018, clinical performance takes precedence over all else in academia. Whether you want to admit it or not, clinical performance is key. So for the residents in the room, when you're being pushed about your clinical decision making and understanding coding, et cetera, I can tell you no matter what career path you're on, you need to understand clinical performance. I don't want to interview another toxicologist who doesn't understand how to make money in toxicology by building a service. I don't want to interview another ultrasonographer who comes to me and has no idea how to put together a financial business plan on how ultrasound is going to make money for the department. And I don't want another clinician educator to come to me to say that they want to teach, but they have absolutely no idea how to compensate for the 20% of protected time they have. It's not working anymore. And so the sub-pieces of my one secret, understand your system's culture. I've made that point clear. Build your priorities around theirs. It's not your show, ultimately, and we're all disposable. The successful chair in today's market must have academic credibility. Build your academic credibility early in your career. Get off to a running start. Judd Hollander last year gave the keynote here at SAEM, and he says, stunned everyone, but he said the truth, there is no wellness and there's no balance in academia if you're on the fast track. So you decide what track you're on. Build your academic credentials early. I can't emphasize that enough. But focus on developing leadership and management skills early on. There's so many courses now and seminars and forums in our specialty to help you learn those skills, but learn them early and build on them. And that's how you'll be prepared to succeed in academics, but also to succeed as a clinical leader in your institution and your own personal success. Thanks.